How many times do we have to scream at the top of our lungs that there is going to be another mass shooting, another massacre of children, another massacre of adults, another massacre at a church?
Our WYP colleague, devoted crisis counselor Chow Win, reacting to a major catastrophe barely averted. Last Sunday, not long after we signed off this broadcast, a woman walked into Lakewood Church less than a mile from here and opened fire with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. Were it not for the actions of two very alert off-duty peace officers, dozens could have died. Instead, the deeply troubled shooter and tragically her critically wounded 7-year-old son may well prove the only two lives destroyed. This week, Houston Mayor John Whitmire reemphasized the critical need for mental health resources and called on lawmakers for statutory measures to help keep firearms away from people who consistently fail to behave rationally.
She was someone's daughter. It's just sad to listen to her neighbors talk about the concern over her behavior, that just we as a society and certain agencies just didn't respond. And red flag laws certainly are one possible addition to our toolkit.
Panel, how in the world was a woman with a long and well-documented history of mental illness, as well as arrests for assault, forgery, theft, and drug possession, able to legally buy this powerful firearm, or any firearm? Marcus Davis, thoughts on this?
I have a different question. Okay. How was a person, a human being with a stretch of mental illness, how was she ignored? How did we as a society, I'm gonna go on what the mayor said about a society that ignored it. Not just, yes, should we have caught that she shouldn't have been able to buy a gun? That's one thing. But should we have caught that she needed to care? Dr. King had a saying that you can't talk about the crime on the Jericho Road without talking about a society that produces a Jericho Road itself. And we have talked this game about mental illness for a decade and a half. The Aurora shooting, all the way back 10, 15 years ago. And we're a nation that gets up in arms and say, we need to do something about mental illness, and then we do nothing.
All right, said Hilita, 57% of our viewers say no red flag law, but 43% say yes, and I think the polling statewide is significantly in favor of something like this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with our colleague, Chow Win. You know, the outcry, the top of our lungs, when is enough enough? I mean, this battle between mental health resources and taking away my guns is not solving the problem. There's going to be another mass shooting in Houston, the state of Texas. The argument is that there's not lack of resources. We live in a pharmaceutical industry. We live in Prozac nation. They're addressing these issues, but they're being heavily medicated. When you treat somebody with mental illness, I have friends who are given a medication, it makes it worse. Some folks are on the borderline of schizophrenia, and then to have access to military-style weapon, that is a recipe for disasters of killing innocent people. I'm pretty much fed up with the argument of the Second Amendment. You take it away, ban assault military rifles, reduce the age from 21 to 18 to purchase. It's not taking away your Second Amendment rights. Let's save lives, and I'm with Chow Win.
All right, Holly, erosion of Second Amendment rights seems to be the battle cry of those, that a red flag law may somehow be abused and somebody may not have access to their guns.
And it can be. I mean, that's the argument against these red flag laws. But let's go back to this particular situation. Long before this woman shot people or tried to shoot up people at this church, there were some very serious signs of serious mental illness with this woman. The police have been involved. There have been many complaints. There was a child. Her child, even before being shot, was a victim, it seems, of her mental illness of Munchausen by proxy syndrome. What are the tools that we have to deal with someone like that. I talked to the head of the Houston Police Officers Union the other day, and he said all they can do if they can prove that someone is a danger to themselves or others is have them hospitalized for 3 days. And then they can walk out on their own, and you have to wait until there's an incident.
All right, I'm going to check in with the Republic of Common Sense, which is Sue Lovell. 30 seconds.
Well, every agency that was in place that was supposed to help this woman, when neighbors called, when family called, they failed. As far as with the child, you know, protective services failed. So the real failure and the real discussion should be, how do we beef up the agencies and have good, comprehensive mental health facilities and help? And how do we beef up our child protective services when they're in a situation like with this child, that they have the capacity and the procedures behind them to be able to move that child to a safe situation? Across the board, everybody failed. Really, who they failed was this child.
How did
The
they
most
tell her
innocent
she was
victim.
arrested several times?